The city was still waking up when she stepped outside with her daughter. The sun hadn't fully risen yet, but the sky was starting to turn light. Birds chirped from rooftops, and the early morning air had that cool, clean feel before the heat of the day took over. She walked slowly, holding her daughter's small hand in hers. The girl wore a backpack that was almost too big for her, and her other hand tapped gently along the railing as they made their way down the steps of their apartment building. Her eyes were closed, not because she was tired, but because she couldn't. See? She had been blind since she was little, but you wouldn't know it just by watching her move. She knew every step, every corner, every sound on this block. Her mom, dressed in jeans and a light jacket, kept a steady pace beside her. She wasn't rich in the flashy kind of way. No expensive cars parked out front or designer clothes, but she had worked hard to give her daughter everything she needed. She owned a small business that helped local shops set up online stores, and over the years, things had gone well. Not many people knew how much she had saved or what she could afford. She liked it that way. Life was simpler when people didn't treat you different just because you had more than they did. They passed the usual spots on their walk to school, the old bakery that opened early, the man who sold coffee from a cart near the bus stop, the quiet park where kids played after school. Then they reached the corner near the school. That's where she saw him. He was wearing the standard uniform, dark pants, bright reflective vest, gloves that looked worn from years of use. He was cleaning up the sidewalk, picking up trash that had been left behind the night before. There was something about the way he moved, steady, focused, like he had done this same thing every day for years and didn't mind doing it again today. As they got closer, her daughter fumbled with the wrapper of a granola bar she had tucked in her pocket. She tried pulling at it, but her fingers couldn't get a good grip. The wrapper crinkled loudly in the quiet morning. Without saying a word, the man stopped what he was doing. He put his trash bag down gently and walked over. Kneeling beside the girl, he held out his hand. "Mind if I help?" he asked, voice calm and kind. The girl nodded and handed him the bar. He peeled it open carefully, then broke off a small piece. Holding it between two fingers, he offered it to her. "Here," he said softly. "Take it slow." The girl smiled and took the bite. She chewed happily while he stayed crouched beside her, making sure she didn't drop anything or struggle with another piece. The mother watched all of this, heart swelling in a way she hadn't expected. She had seen so many people rush past, others ignore those who looked different or less fortunate. But here was a man, someone most people barely noticed, taking time to help her child without being asked. When the girl finished eating, the man stood up and gave her a gentle pat on the shoulder. "There you go," he said. "You've got a good appetite." Then he turned to the mother and gave a small nod. "Hope she has a good day at school." He picked up his bag and went back to work like nothing special had happened, but it had been special. The mother stood there for a second longer than needed, watching him go. He didn't look back. He didn't wave or smile for attention. He just kept moving, doing his job the same way he always did. They continued walking toward the school, but the mother's thoughts stayed on that moment. It wasn't just the kindness. It was the way he had done it, like it was normal, like helping someone else was just part of his day. Later that morning, after dropping her daughter off, she sat in a nearby cafe with her laptop open. She typed a few sentences into a blank document. "There's a man near my daughter's school. He works as a cleaner, but he sees more than most people. This morning, he helped my blind daughter eat her breakfast, and I don't even know his name." She stared at the screen for a long time before closing the laptop. That night, she told a friend about it. Just a quick message, not expecting much to come from it. "I saw this guy today. He helped my daughter when she was struggling with her food. He didn't have to. He just did." Her friend replied right away. "Sounds like he deserves to be seen." The next morning, she came back to the same spot. She wanted to say thank you, maybe offer something, a gift card, a small token of appreciation. But when she got there, the man was already working, moving down the street with the same quiet focus as before. She thought about calling out, but decided not to interrupt. there would be time later. Or maybe not. Because sometimes, the people who make the biggest difference are the ones who don't stick around for thanks. They do what they can, then disappear back into the world like they were never there. But she remembered him, and she wasn't going to forget. She started asking around, not loudly or with cameras, just quiet questions to people who knew him. The coffee cart guy, the school janitor, a woman who walked her dog every morning near the street where he worked. Nobody knew much about him. Just that he'd been cleaning those streets for years, that he was always early, always polite, never complained even when it rained or snowed. She found out he lived not far from where they met each morning, somewhere in a small apartment building 2 blocks from the train tracks. Not fancy, but clean. The kind of place where people kept their windows open during summer and let music drift out into the air. One day she decided to go see for herself. Not to knock on his door, she didn't want to scare him off, but just to understand a little more about the man who had helped her daughter without hesitation. She passed the building a few times, watched as neighbors came and went, saw an older woman sitting outside with a cup of tea watching the world go by. There was something peaceful about it, even though everything looked worn down. Like this was a place where people still looked out for each other. Later that week, she got a call from a friend who worked at the city office. "You're asking about that cleaner guy?" her friend said. "Yeah," she replied. "Do you know anything about him?" There was a pause. "He's been working for the city over 20 years, her friend said. "Started when he was young. Took over his dad's shift after he passed." She sat up straighter. "What do you mean?" "His dad used to work the same route. Got sick one winter. Couldn't keep doing it, so he stepped in. Never left." She felt a lump in her throat but didn't say anything. Her friend went on. "He doesn't complain, doesn't ask for more money, just shows up every day like clockwork." Asked if there were any records or photos. Her friend said no, but added, "You know he helps kids too, teaches them stuff on weekends." That surprised her. Like what? Money stuff, how to save, how to read. I heard he even helped some get jobs. She thanked her friend and hung up. That night, she sat at her desk again, opened the same document she had started the day before, added a few more lines. "He's been cleaning these streets for over 20 years. Took over from his dad. Helps kids on weekends, nobody knows his name. But he deserves to be known." She didn't publish it yet. She wasn't sure what to do with it, but she couldn't stop thinking about him. A few days later, she saw him again. Same spot, same time. He was wiping off a bench near the school gate, making sure it was clean before parents started arriving. She watched him for a moment before walking closer. He saw her and gave a small nod. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied. She hesitated, then reached into her bag and pulled out a gift card. "I wanted to say thank you," she said, "for helping my daughter." He looked at the card but didn't take it right away. "I was just doing what anyone should do," he said quietly. "I know," she said, "but most people don't." He took the card finally, but didn't look happy about it. "You don't have to give me anything," he said. "I know," she said again. "I just wanted to." They stood there for a second, no cars passing, just the sound of wind rustling leaves. Then he spoke again. "She's lucky to have you," he said. She smiled. "And you're lucky to have your heart," she replied. He gave a small chuckle and picked up his bag. "I better get back to work," he said. She nodded. "See you around," she said. He walked off, disappearing around the corner like he always did. But now, she knew a little more about him, and she was starting to care. Not just because he had helped her daughter, but because he was the kind of person who helped others even when nobody was watching. The kind of person who deserved to be seen. And maybe, just maybe, she could help make that happen. She couldn't stop thinking about him. Every time she dropped her daughter off at school, she found herself looking for him. Sometimes he was there, sweeping or picking up trash. Other times he wasn't. But even when he wasn't around, his presence lingered in her mind. That night, she sat on her couch with a notebook open in front of her. She scribbled down everything she knew about him, every detail people had shared, every moment she'd witnessed herself. By the end of it, she realized something. This man didn't just deserve a thank you card. He deserved recognition. Real recognition. But how? The next morning, while sipping coffee, an idea came to her. What if someone wrote about him? Not just a quick post online, but a real article. Something that could reach more people and show them the kind of person he was. She reached out to a journalist friend who worked at a local newspaper. They met over coffee later that week. "I need your help," she said as they sat down. Her friend smiled. "You know I'm always looking for stories. What have you got?" She told him everything. About the man who cleaned streets, who helped her blind daughter eat breakfast without expecting anything in return, who taught kids on weekends and lived quietly, doing good without anyone noticing. Her friend listened carefully, nodding now and then. "This sounds amazing," he said finally. "People love stories like this, but no names yet," she added quickly. "I don't want to scare him off." "Got it," her friend said. "We'll keep it anonymous for now." A few days later, the article went live. It started small, a short piece tucked away in the community section of the paper. The headline read, "The Unsung Hero of Our Streets." At first, nothing happened. Life went on as usual. People flipped through the pages, maybe glanced at the story and moved on. But then, something changed. Someone shared the article online. Then another person did, and another. Before long, it spread across social media. Comments poured in. "This is exactly what we need to see more of. Why aren't there more people like him? Where can I donate to support him?" The reaction caught her completely off guard. She hadn't expected this kind of response. But deep down, she wasn't surprised either. After all, everyone craves reminders that kindness still exists in the world. Meanwhile, donations began pouring into a GoFundMe page she had secretly set up. Strangers gave money, not huge amounts, but enough to add up quickly. Some sent letters. Others offered scholarships for kids in the neighborhood. A local business owner even pledged to match whatever amount was raised. All of this happened without him knowing. One evening, she drove past his apartment building. Lights flickered in some windows, but she couldn't tell which one was his. She parked nearby and sat there for a while, wondering how he would react once he found out. Would he be angry, grateful, overwhelmed? She hoped it would bring him joy. That's all she wanted, for him to feel seen, appreciated, and valued. The next day, she saw him again near the school. Same routine, same quiet focus. She walked closer, heart pounding slightly. He looked up and smiled faintly. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" He paused, sensing something different in her voice. "Sure." She took a deep breath. "Something's been happening," she said slowly. "About you." He frowned, confused. "About me?" "Yes. Someone wrote an article about you, about the work you do, the things you've done for others." His face darkened slightly. "No one asked me about this," he said, sounding uneasy. No," she admitted. "And I'm sorry if it feels wrong. But listen." She explained everything. The article, the donations, the flood of support from strangers who had been inspired by his story. When she finished, he stood silently for a moment. Then he shook his head. "I don't need any of that," he said firmly. "I didn't do those things for attention. I did them because it's the right thing to do." "I understand," she said softly. "But sometimes doing the right thing deserves to be celebrated. You've touched so many lives, including mine, and I think the world needs to hear about it." He sighed deeply, running a hand over his face. "What am I supposed to do now?" he asked. "That's up to you," she said. "But whatever you decide, just know that people care. They really do." For the rest of the day, she couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. Had she pushed too hard? Should she have waited longer before telling him? Later that evening, her phone buzzed. It was a text from her journalist friend. "He knows," it read simply. Then another message followed. "He wants to meet tomorrow." Her heart raced. Was he upset? Angry? Or grateful? Only one way to find out. The next morning, she woke up early. Her mind was racing with questions. What would he say? Would he be angry, grateful, or maybe just confused? She arrived at the spot where they had agreed to meet, a small park near the school. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Birds chirped softly in the background and the air smelled fresh like it always did after a cool night. He was already there, sitting on a bench with his hands clasped together. He looked calm but thoughtful, as if he had spent hours thinking about what to say. When he saw her approach, he stood up and gave her a small nod. "Thanks for coming," he said. "Of course," she replied, sitting beside him. "How are you feeling?" He hesitated before answering. "I'm not sure yet," he admitted. "It's a lot to take in." "I understand," she said gently. "I didn't mean to overwhelm you. I just wanted people to see how special you are." He looked at her, his eyes softening. "You don't have to do that for me," he said. "I'm just a regular guy doing my job." "But that's exactly why people care," she said, her voice firm but kind. "Not everyone does their job with so much heart. You help others without expecting anything in return. That's rare. These days." He sighed and looked down at his hands. "It's not about being noticed," he said quietly. "I just try to make things better where I can. If I can help one kid or one person, then that's enough for me." She nodded, understanding completely. "But here's the thing," she continued. "People want to help you now. They've seen your story, and they're inspired by it. They want to give back." He shook his head slightly. "I don't need money or gifts," he said. "I've gotten by fine without them." "I know," she said, "but sometimes life throws challenges at us that we can't handle alone, and there's no shame in accepting help when it's offered." He stayed quiet for a moment, letting her words sink in. "What am I supposed to do with all this?" he asked finally. "With the donations, the attention, everything?" "That's up to you," she said. "You could use it to pay off bills, fix your mom's house, or even start something new, something that helps others like you've always done." He smiled faintly. "You really think I could do that?" "I know you can," she said confidently. "You've already been helping kids on weekends. Imagine what you could do with more resources. A bigger platform, more support." His smile grew wider, but it was still tinged with uncertainty. "It feels strange," he admitted. "Like none of this is real." "It's real," she assured him. "And you deserve every bit of it." They sat there for a while longer, talking about possibilities. She told him about some ideas she'd been thinking about, ways he could turn the attention into something meaningful. Maybe start a program to help low-income workers find better jobs, or create a space where kids could learn skills they wouldn't get in school. He listened carefully, nodding occasionally. "I never thought about doing something like that," he said, "but it sounds good." "It is good," she said, "and it's something only you can do, because it comes from who you are." By the time they parted ways, he seemed lighter, less burdened by the weight of everything that had happened. As she walked away, she couldn't help but feel hopeful. Hopeful that this was just the beginning of something bigger. Over the next few weeks, things started to change, for both of them. For him, the donations allowed him to finally move his mom into a safer, brighter apartment. She had lived in the same place for decades, struggling with old pipes and drafty windows. Now she had a cozy home that felt brand new. He also used some of the money to enroll in an online course about leadership and community development. It wasn't something he had ever considered before, but now he found himself eager to learn. Every night after work, he sat at his kitchen table with his laptop open, taking notes and dreaming of what might come next. Meanwhile, she threw herself into helping him build something lasting. Together, they came up with a plan for a mentorship program aimed at adults who worked tough jobs but dreamed of something more. They called it Hands That Lift. The name came from him. When I was growing up, he explained, my dad used to say that our hands aren't just for working, they're for lifting others up too. That's what I want this to be about. Her eyes filled with tears when he said that. It's perfect, she whispered. The program launched quietly at first with just a handful of participants. But word spread quickly. Soon dozens of people were signing up, eager to learn from someone who understood their struggles firsthand. Every Saturday he met with them in a rented room at the community center. He taught them how to write resumes, manage finances, and prepare for interviews. Sometimes he brought in guest speakers, business owners, teachers, and leaders who believed in the cause. And every Sunday he visited schools, sharing his story with kids who reminded him of himself when he was younger. He told them about his journey, about the importance of hard work, and about never giving up, even when life felt impossible. Through it all, she stayed by his side. Not because she needed to, but because she wanted to. Watching him grow into this new role filled her with pride. She had always known he was special, but seeing him inspire others confirmed it in ways she hadn't imagined. One evening, as they packed up materials after a long day of mentoring, he turned to her. I couldn't have done any of this without you, he said sincerely. Yes, you could, she replied. You're the one making it happen. I'm just cheering you on. He smiled, shaking his head. No, he said. You saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and you made me believe I could do more. She felt her throat tighten, but she managed to smile back. That's because you can, she said simply. As they walked out of the building together, the sun setting behind them, she realized something important. This wasn't just his story anymore. It was theirs. A shared journey of kindness, gratitude, and hope. And it was far from over. Months had passed since everything began, since that quiet morning when a small act of kindness sparked a chain reaction neither of them could have predicted. Life felt different now, for both of them, but especially for him. Every day brought new challenges and opportunities. The mentorship program he started grew faster than anyone expected. What began as a handful of participants quickly turned into dozens, then hundreds. People from all over the city heard about it and wanted to join. Some were sanitation workers like him. Others worked long hours at factories, restaurants, or warehouses. All of them shared one thing in common: a dream of something better. Spent his days cleaning streets just like always, but his nights and weekends were filled with planning sessions, workshops, and meetings. He wasn't alone in this anymore. Volunteers joined the cause, teachers, counselors, even business owners, eager to help, and she stayed right beside him, guiding him through the logistics while cheering him on every step of the way. One evening, after a particularly busy day, they sat together in the community center's small office. Papers were scattered across the desk, coffee cups sat half empty, and the clock ticked loudly against the wall. You're doing amazing, she said, breaking the silence. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. I don't know if I'd call it amazing. He replied with a chuckle. There's still so much to do. That's true, she admitted. But look how far you've come. You're changing lives, including your own. He smiled faintly, looking down at his hands. It's strange, he said. For so many years I thought my job was just a job, something I did to get by. But now I see it differently. Every street I clean feels like part of something bigger. She nodded, her eyes softening. That's because it is part of something bigger, she said. You're not just cleaning streets, you're building hope. For yourself, for others, for everyone who looks up to you. He didn't say anything for a moment, letting her words sink in. Then he spoke again, his voice quieter this time. Do you think my dad would be proud? Her heart clenched at the question. She knew how much his father meant to him, the man who had taught him the value of hard work and lifting others up. I think he'd be more than proud, she said softly. I think he'd be amazed at what you've built, at the person you've become. He blinked quickly, swallowing hard. Then he gave her a small smile. Thanks, he said simply. That means a lot. They packed up their things soon after and headed outside. The air was cool, and the stars above twinkled brightly in the clear night sky. They walked side by side, talking about plans for the future. Ideas kept pouring in, ways to expand the program, partnerships they could form, places they could reach. As they reached the corner where they usually parted ways, she stopped and turned to face him. "There's one more thing," she said. "What's that?" he asked. "The city council wants to meet with you," she explained. "They heard about what you're doing and want to hear it from you directly." His eyebrows shot up in surprise. "The city council?" "Yes," she said with a grin. "They're impressed. They want to talk about creating more opportunities for people like the ones you're helping." He shook his head, laughing softly. "This is getting crazier every day," he muttered. "But in a good way," she added quickly. "In the best possible way." He nodded, still smiling. "I guess I'll have to start wearing nicer clothes," he joked. She laughed, nudging him playfully. "You'll do great," she assured him. "Just be yourself. That's all anyone needs." The meeting with the city council came sooner than expected. Dressed in a crisp shirt and slacks he hadn't worn in years, he walked into the large conference room feeling nervous but determined. Rows of chairs lined the walls, filled with reporters, community leaders, and curious citizens. Cameras clicked quietly in the background, capturing every move. At the center of the room sat the council members, dressed formally, and watching intently as he approached the podium. She sat in the front row, giving him a reassuring nod before he began speaking. For the first few minutes, his voice wavered slightly, but as he talked about his journey, from taking over his father's route to starting the mentorship program, his confidence grew. He spoke passionately about the importance of supporting workers, investing in education, and creating pathways for success. His words resonated deeply with everyone in the room. When he finished, the audience erupted into applause. Council members stood up, clapping enthusiastically while cameras flashed non-stop. Reporters rushed forward to ask questions, but he handled each one with grace and humility. Afterward, as they stepped outside, she hugged him tightly. "You were incredible," she said, her voice filled with pride. He laughed, shaking his head. "I can't believe that actually happened," he admitted. "It happened because you made it happen," she replied firmly. "Because you refuse to settle for less than what you deserve." Weeks later, the impact of that meeting became clear. The city announced new initiatives aimed at improving working conditions for public servants. Scholarships were created for children of sanitation workers, and funding was allocated to expand programs like the one he had started. But perhaps the most meaningful change came closer to home. One afternoon, as he walked through the neighborhood near the school, he noticed a group of kids playing basketball in the park. One of them waved excitedly when they saw him. "Mr. Cleaner Guy," the boy shouted, running over. He smiled, bending down to greet the child. "How's it going?" he asked. "We're practicing for the tournament next week," the boy said proudly. "Want to watch?" "Of course," he replied. "Wouldn't miss it." The boy grinned and ran back to his friends, calling out, "He's coming, Mr. Cleaner. Guy is coming." He stood there for a moment, watching them laugh and cheer. It struck him how much had changed, not just in his life, but in theirs too. These kids saw him differently now, not just as someone who cleaned streets, but as someone who cared, someone worth looking up to. Later that evening, as he sat on his porch sipping tea, she joined him. They watched the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. "You've done so much," she said quietly, "and you're not even close to done." He chuckled, shaking his head. "I don't know about all that," he said. "But I do know one thing. I'm glad I didn't give up." "So am I," she said, smiling warmly. "So am I." Years passed, but the bond between them only grew stronger. The man who once cleaned streets quietly was now a symbol of hope, not just in his neighborhood, but across the city. People recognized him everywhere he went, at the grocery store, on the bus, even at local events where he gave speeches about perseverance and kindness. She often joked that he couldn't take 2 steps without someone stopping him to say thank you. And while he still felt uncomfortable with all the attention, He couldn't deny how much it meant to be seen, to know that his work mattered, that his life mattered. One crisp autumn morning, 5 years after their journey began, she stood outside, a brand new building near the school where they had first met. A large crowd gathered around her, buzzing with excitement. Kids held colorful balloons, parents snapped photos, and reporters jotted down notes as they waited for him to arrive. This was the day everyone had been waiting for, the grand opening of the community center he had dreamed of creating. Named after his late father, it stood tall and bright, its windows gleaming under the morning sun. Inside, classrooms were ready to teach kids math, science, art, and music. There were spaces for adults too, areas dedicated to job training, financial literacy, and mental health support. When he finally arrived, walking slowly toward the entrance, the crowd erupted into cheers. He wore a suit this time, looking sharp and confident despite his nerves. She stood beside him, holding a microphone as they prepared to cut the ribbon together. "Today," she began, addressing the crowd, "is about celebrating someone who changed our lives forever. Someone who showed us that no act of kindness is too small and no dream is too big." The applause grew louder, echoing through the streets. She handed him the microphone, stepping back to let him speak. He took a deep breath, gripping the mic tightly. For a moment he looked out at the sea of faces, familiar and unfamiliar, and felt overwhelmed by gratitude. "I never thought I'd stand here like this," he admitted, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I spent most of my life thinking I wasn't enough, that what I did didn't matter. But then something happened. Someone believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." He turned to her, smiling warmly. "She reminded me that we all have the power to make a difference if we're willing to try, if we're willing to care." The crowd clapped again, some people wiping away tears. He continued, his words flowing more easily now. "This place isn't mine. It belongs to all of us, to every kid who dreams of a better future, to every parent working hard to give their family a better life, to everyone who feels invisible but knows deep down that they deserve to be seen." When he finished speaking, the cheers were deafening. Together they cut the ribbon, officially opening the doors to a new beginning. Inside, the energy was electric. Kids ran from room to room, exploring everything the center had to offer. Adults sat in workshops, eager to learn skills that would help them advance in their careers. Volunteers bustled around, making sure everyone felt welcome. He wandered through the halls, watching it all unfold. Every corner of the building reflected his vision. A safe space where anyone could come to grow, heal, and thrive. He stopped in front of a mural painted on one wall. It depicted hands reaching upward, lifting each other higher. Beneath it were the words, "Together, we rise." Tears welled up in his eyes as he stared at it. This wasn't just a building. It was proof that kindness could ripple outward, touching lives in ways he never imagined. Later that afternoon, he found her sitting alone in a quiet corner of the center. She looked tired but content, leaning back in her chair with a cup of coffee in hand. "You've done it," she said softly as he approached. "We've done it," he corrected, pulling up a chair beside her. She smiled, shaking her head. "No, you did this. I just helped." He reached over, placing a hand on hers. "You did more than help," he said. "You believed in me. You saw something in me that I couldn't see myself. Without you, none of this would exist." Her eyes glistened, but she laughed lightly. "Well, don't get too sentimental," she teased. "We've got a lot more work to do." He grinned, nodding in agreement. "Oh, I know," he said. "But for today, can we just enjoy the moment?" "Absolutely," she replied, raising her coffee cup playfully. "To believing in ourselves and in each other." They clinked their cups together, laughing as the sound echoed softly in the empty room. That evening, after the crowds had gone, home and the lights dimmed inside the center, he walked back to the park near the school. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of fallen leaves. He sat on a bench, staring up at the stars twinkling above. It struck him how far he'd come. From sweeping streets unnoticed to standing before hundreds of people, inspiring them to dream bigger. Yet in his heart, he knew nothing had truly changed. He was still the same person he'd always been, someone who cared deeply about others and tried to make the world a little brighter, one small act at a time. As he sat there, lost in thought, a familiar voice called out, "Mr. Cleaner Guy." He turned to see a group of kids running toward him, their laughter filling the night air. One of them held out a crumpled piece of paper. "We made this for you," the boy said proudly. He unfolded it carefully. It was a drawing of him, standing tall with a broom in one hand and a book in the other. Surrounding him were smiling faces, kids, parents, teachers, all connected by lines forming a giant heart. His throat tightened as he looked at it. "Thank you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "This means more to me than you'll ever know." The kids beamed, waving goodbye, as they ran off to play. He stayed on the bench for a long time afterward, holding the drawing close to his chest. In that moment, he realized something important. Success wasn't measured by money or fame. It was measured by the lives you touched, by the love you shared, by the legacy you left behind. And as he walked home beneath the starlit sky, he knew his legacy was already taking shape. One kind gesture, one hopeful dream, one grateful heart at a time.